The Smash Beer Pole Award for round 1 of the Mosport 175 goes to Taylor Brillen, making this her second pole of the season. Brillen gets a great run through the first corner, and so does Rene Ricarmier. He quickly jumps in and leaves Packer Carroll stuck on the left side of the track. Packer Carroll is back in the 71 car this week. Leslie Riggs is also back in the 50 car. Riggs had to sit out last week's race at Alaska after receiving a concussion at Alberta, and she currently runs third in the opening stages of the race, so not too shabby of a comeback for Riggs. The same can also be said of her teammate Damian Snyder, who is also back this week. Snyder's injuries were very similar to Riggs's, and he also had to sit out at Alaska, and right now he is running just a couple of positions behind his teammate. We had a big crash at the end of the second lap that was triggered when Harry Nola gets into Hawk's slider coming off the final corner, and that sends Amy Patty into the wall. Patty gets hit by Edwin Schwartzlowski, bounces off the wall once again, and comes back up in front of traffic. Several cars go off, including Gary D'Souza, Holden Roberts, Nico Petrov, Amy Harrison, Todd Stater, among others. Here is Amy Harrison from the aerial shot. Roberts and Harrison have nowhere to go when Amy Patty comes flying up the track. Jacob Eichholz in the 231 goes off as well and hits the tire wall pretty hard. 6 cars will be taken out of the race in this incident. Todd Wlodarczyk will be driving the 3 car for the rest of the season. He couldn't find a ride at the beginning of 2011, but he was finally given the call to drive this car. But he gets a rude introduction to ARLA as Shane Lake clips the 3 and takes both cars into the tire barriers. Lake and Wlodarczyk will both go out. Gary D'Souza fell off the pace due to the damage he received, and now he is about to be put a lap down by Taylor Brillen. That is, if she can get by him. D'Souza is not making life very easy for the leaders, and this allows Packer Carroll to catch right up to Taylor Brillen, but there goes the 65. And she finally makes it by the 149, leaving Packer Carroll stuck behind D'Souza. Leslie Riggs takes advantage and gets by Carroll for the second spot. Carroll would be held up behind the 149 for several more moments, and Damian Snyder is now working on him for the 5th spot. And he is not done losing positions yet as he comes under attack from CJ Cameron, and Brenda Riggs is lurking a few car lengths back. Coming through turns 5 and 6, Kyle Eckerton gets a little bump from Ricky Navarro, and he is sent spinning off into the grass. Zach Branch runs into the back of the 47, and that will take Zach Branch out of the running. Lake Gurrell is the next car to go a lap down. The leaders got by him without a problem, but Leslie Riggs decides to not play so nice. She turns him into the wall and then spins the 46. He comes back up across the track and into Packer Carroll, taking both cars into the wall. Both drivers keep going, but I don't think either of them are going to be too happy with Leslie Riggs after this. Ricky Navarro strikes again as he and Andy Pearson get together coming off of turn 10. They take each other into the inside wall, and Pearson is sent for a spin. Ricky Navarro was called to the hauler because he already sent Kyle Eckerton for a spin a few laps earlier. In the meantime, the battle for the lead heats up as Rene Ricarmier gets a big run on Taylor Brillen. The 0 cars really start to come in, and it seems that he is much faster than the 65. And Ricarmier still leads when he leads everybody down into the pit lane. We did not see a lot of pit strategy as everybody on the lead lap came into the pits this time around. And when pit stops are complete, Ricarmier still holds the lead, and in fact he has extended his lead over Taylor Brillen. And here he is getting around his teammate Gary D'Souza, who is being a good teammate and moving over for faster traffic. Bruce Wilkinson runs third, a very familiar position if you watched him in 2010. He consistently ran up front in his few starts last season, and now in his first full year of Elite Series competition, he is back in familiar territory, the top 5. Leslie and Brenda Riggs now encounter the 149 of Gary D'Souza. Leslie looks to the left, and she hooks the 149, taking both cars into the wall. And Brenda gets collected as well. That's the second time today that Leslie Riggs has dumped a lapped car, and this time around she gets some pretty significant damage. Riggs tries to limp away, but coming off at turn 1, Ricky Flush runs into the back of the 50. And then Rip Tyler has a go at running into the 50. Chuck Bloomers has nowhere to go. Leslie Riggs does a roll in the grass, and that will be the end of the day for Leslie Riggs. And then while Rip Tyler is limping away, he's got a gaggle of cars stuck behind him. He pulls up into Packer Carroll, who goes way out into the grass and spins, nicking the tire wall a little bit. Kevin Monroe is going to get caught up in this. He reacts to the incident, and Allie Riggs doesn't quite do the same, and so she taps the 63, sending him around. Andy Pearson has a mechanical problem, and so he stalls car number 2 on the track. He will have to be towed to the pits, but he will not drop out. Brenda Riggs and Bruce Wilkinson get together, coming off of turn 10. Bruce Wilkinson gets spun into the wall and then hit by Damian Snyder, and then Snyder gets hammered by a couple other cars, his teammate Harry Nola and Bigsby Foot in the 14. CJ Cameron in the 313 narrowly misses this, but Harry Nola and Bigsby Foot not so much. Bruce Wilkinson suffered some heavy damage, and while he is trying to limp away, he pulls right in front of Allie Riggs coming off of turn 1. Here's the shot from onboard car number 19. She misses the initial wreck, and she comes up on Wilkinson and Foot coming through turn 1, and Wilkinson just pulls right in front of the 19. It's not like he didn't have any room on the left side of the track, and if I played what was mentioned over Allie Riggs' radio, then, well, the resulting fines would put this network out of business. With less than 10 laps to go, Renee Ricarmier still has a big lead over Taylor Brillon, and then it is a huge gap back to third place. Allie Riggs is a lap down. Brenda Riggs and Edwin Shortslawski are a lap down. And there is the third place car, CJ Cameron in the 313. Then it is Herbie Finkelberg, Kevin Monroe, Libby Bell, Philip Borland, Scott Dowlitz, and the rest of the leaders. This is Herbie Finkelberg's third start for Speed Vision and third top 10 run so far. That team has been absolutely fantastic right out of the box, so I don't think it would be unreasonable to predict a win fairly soon for this team, especially Herbie Finkelberg, because frankly his teammate and car owner David Krikorian has been fairly hit or miss. Renee Ricarmier kicks off the second cycle of pit stops. And this time around, we see some different pit strategy going on as Kevin Monroe stays out an extra lap to try to gain some time on the cars in front of him. But he's going to find it kind of difficult to do that because he is currently being held up by Packer Carroll in the 71. Michael Madrigal and Caleb Ezel have a run-in with each other. Madrigal puts a lot of pressure on the 672, but he hops the curb and gets into the 672, sending both cars for a spin. Madrigal backs it into the wall, but Bezel doesn't hit anything, and both cars are able to keep going. Hawk Slider is using Kevin Monroe's strategy of staying out for an extra lap. Slider's been hovering around the top 10 all race, easily his best performance of the season, and he is about to make the turn into the pits, so we'll see if his strategy pays off. Libby Bell and Philip Borland are having good runs. They're both up in the top 10, but they have a run-in of their own as Borland takes both cars into the wall. Libby Bell does not lose a lot of positions, but the same can't be said for Philip Borland. Renee Ricarmier still leads when pit stops cycle out, but he gets held up by Packer Carroll, and look how much Taylor Brillon is catching up to the 0. And now Ricarmier finally steps out to overtake the 71. It seems that he figured out that's what he should have been doing. Leigh Grell strikes again as he holds up CJ Cameron in the 313. Cameron hooks the 46, taking both cars off the track and into the tire walls. And Cameron takes himself out of a top 5 run in the closing laps of the race. In the meantime, Renee Ricarmier opens up a gap once again and goes on to take his second victory of the season in his rookie year. Coming to the checkered flag, Kevin Monroe and Herbie Finkelberg have to deal with Packer Carroll, and Carroll runs Monroe off the track, and Monroe goes into the tire walls, but he will keep going and finish the race. Packer Carroll was called to the hauler for this and his general interference during the race, while Herbie Finkelberg went on to finish third, 21 seconds behind Renee Ricarmier and Taylor Brillon. Kevin Monroe, on the other hand, manages to hang on to fourth. We had a very close battle for fifth coming to the line, and Hawk Slider just barely beat out Scott Dowlitz for the spot. Henrietta Laverne has one of the better runs of her season and of her career, bringing home 7th. Philip Borland gets his first top 10 finish of the season, with Michael Madrigal running right behind him. And then Caleb Ezel rounds out the top 10 in another good run for Dangerous Dog Racing. We now go over to round number 2, where Tyson Lautenschlager has taken the pole, with Joseph Howard starting on his outside. This is the first pole for Tyson Lautenschlager in his ARLA Elite Series career, and he makes good use of it as he gets a big jump over the rest of the field coming off of turn number 1. The Atsuro Technologies cars are making their second appearance of the season. They are running the road races this year. Kiriki Hitsuno finished 14th in round 1, and Kyle Gaffigan is running 3rd right now in the opening stages of round 2. So the Formula Overdrive regulars are not having too shabby of a run right now. Siju Dejao in the 37 overdrives turn number 10, and when he gets back onto the track, Scott Morales is right there. This takes car 37 into the wall, and Dale Underwood in the 03 has nowhere to go. All 3 cars would continue, but with some pretty significant damage, especially to the 37 and 03. And Dejao would soon start holding up the leaders as Kyle Gaffigan and Robert Scott get trapped behind the 37. I don't think they're going to appreciate Dejao holding them up and letting the leaders get away. I think this would also be a good time to mention that Dejao's teammate, Joseph Howard, is currently running in the 2nd spot. I'm just putting that out there. Namimura and James West are enjoying a battle for position. Mura gets around West on the left side, and West washes up into Mura, taking them both into the tire walls in turn 10. And they both go out of the race. And here's some more early race attrition as Nick Howard in the 611 gets into Wesley Savage in the 6 coming off of turn 10, and this creates a fairly big crash on the front stretch. Lucas Hunter and Joel Rodriguez pile in among others. Here is an aerial shot. Nick Howard gets into the 6 without really making any effort to get out of the way. Rachel Gonzalez and Earl McDermott get a piece of that, and Lucas Hunter goes for a long slide without really getting hit by anybody else. Cletus McGuffey in the Backroads racing car does a good job of avoiding this wreck, but then off of one he swerves left off the course and into the wall. Not sure entirely why that happened, but needless to say, this incident prompted some investigation from officials. Tyson Lautenschlager kicks off the first cycle of pit stops while Joseph Howard stays out for an extra lap. It seems that we're going to see more pit strategy than we did in round 1, and Howard's decision to stay out pays off. He finds himself leading the race by a comfortable margin when pit stops cycle out. Howard got his first win at Texas at the beginning of the season, but MRD Motorsports has not really done too much since then, so they could use a run like this to put themselves back in the spotlight. Jeremy West currently runs 3rd in what has easily been the best performance for this team so far. Crashes, mechanical problems, and general mediocrity has kept this team way down in the standings so far, but they seem to be turning that around today. Jared Anderson in the 9 is also having a good run after struggling in recent years. In fact, Anderson was demoted to the Griesberger Thunder Trucks team after an abysmal 2009. However, in the middle of 2010, he was brought back up to the Elite Series, and currently he runs inside the top 10. David Krikorian is the first of the leaders to kick off the 2nd cycle of pit stops. Tyson Lautenschlager would follow suit 1 lap later. And once again, Joseph Howard pits a lap later than Tyson Lautenschlager. Howard would continue to lead after pit stops cycle out, and he still has a very nice cushion over Tyson Lautenschlager. However, that lead would be reduced to nothing as Joseph Howard gets stuck behind the lapped car of Lucas Hunter. Lautenschlager has a look to the right, but he hooks Joseph Howard and turns him into the grass, and Joseph Howard goes into the tire walls. Lap traffic plus impatience from other drivers means that Joseph Howard gets taken out of the lead. Just a handful of laps from the finish, and a mechanical problem on Jeremy West's car takes him out of a good position. He would return to the race, but well out of contention for a decent run. A.J. Young has been running towards the back all race, and now he finally does something noteworthy by throwing his car off the track all by himself. Well, at least he'll be able to sign autographs for those people in the campers over there. Tyson Lautenschlager now has the lead, but he is still stuck behind Lucas Hunter. And on the bottom of the screen, you'll see that he'll soon have company in the form of Rybert Scott and David Krikorian. Scott and Krikorian have been hovering around the top 10 all day and are now starting to come alive towards the end of this race in the best performance of the year for both teams. Scott is in his first full season, and Krikorian is only making his third start. Tyson Lautenschlager is still stuck behind the 01 as Scott and Krikorian close in. Lautenschlager hooks Lucas Hunter and takes himself into the wall. In turn 10, Rybert Scott is quick to pounce on him and take the lead. David Krikorian does likewise, and Tyson Lautenschlager drops to third. Then David Krikorian turns the lap car of Cletus McGuffey off the track and into the wall. Lucas Hunter piles into the 04, and that takes both cars out of the running and out of the way of the leaders. This helps Rybert Scott build a very nice cushion over the rest of his competition, and Rybert Scott will go on to take his first ARLA Elite Series victory. After a disastrous beginning to this year, I'm sure Scott couldn't have wished for a better way to turn it around. David Krikorian, the former TM Master Cup Series driver, hangs on to the second spot. I can't say enough about how impressive this team has been right out of the box. Tyson Lautenschlager salvages a third-place finish after taking himself out of the lead, but I think that might have been his incident with Joseph Howard coming back to haunt him. Kyle Gaffigan finishes a rather quiet fourth, so it was a good day for Atsuro Technologies with both cars in the top 15. Lucas Sweeney continues to show that he's a good road racer with a 5th-place finish. He won the rain race at Watkins Glen last season. Jared Anderson brings home a respectable 6th-place finish, and Jason Bates finishes 7th, putting 2 CarLink cars in the top 10. Rachel Rainsford brings her Cuvette home 8th in one of her better runs of the season. Bob Steffens finishes 9th, and Mamba Kumengu rounds out the top 10. And now let's have a look at our point standings. Rene Ricarmier takes the lead after his victory, and on a side note, this season's repeat winners so far, Rene Ricarmier, Kevin Monroe, and Allie Riggs, occupy the first 3 spots. Brenda Riggs is 4th, 78 points behind the leader. Jacob Eichholt's 5th. The White Mountain Motorsports teammates, Ricky Flush and CJ Cameron, are 6th and 7th. Andy Pearson is 8th, Lake Ruel 9th, and Mamba Kumengu is 10th. And now for 11th through 20th, Michael Madrigal is 11th, 154 points behind the leader. Bigsby Foot is 12th, Lucas Sweeney 13th, Holden Roberts drops back to 14th after getting caught up in a wreck. Libby Bell is 15th, Nick Howard 16th, Gary D'Souza 17th, which puts both Wiper Ildist cars in the top 20. Amy Patty is 18th, and then Rip Tyler and Taylor Brillin are tied for 19th. 177 points behind the leader. However, the tiebreaker is that Rip Tyler has a victory and Taylor Brillin does not.